Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing, non-profit, educational, or personal use. Tips the balance in favor of fair use. So I'm not going to read this article on my phone. I'm going to be reading on my tablet. But I knew I was going to start connecting some dots. And I do wonder what kind of relationship Mitch Brisker had with Paul Haggis. So he's been, I don't know if you, I guess he's had to make a huge payout. So he was found guilty. So here we go. Paul Haggis defense team calls Scientology in the aftermath co-host Mike Rinder as first witness in rape trial. Dated October 28th, 2022. He looks like a creep. A former high-ranking official in the Church of Scientology said Friday that the organization never forgets its enemies until they are destroyed. And he said that filmmaker Paul Haggis, who quit Scientology, remains one of the biggest targets. I don't agree with this. Mike Rinder, an Australian who was Scientology's top enforcer and who co-hosted the Emmy-winning docuseries Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath, was the first witness for the defense in the New York sexual civil assault trial of Haggis. The Oscar-winning screenwriter of Crash and a major figure in a 2015 documentary expose about Scientology going clear, Haggis is being sued by Haley Breest, a publicist in New York who claims that he raped her in his Soho apartment in 2013. Haggis said the sex was consensual, they always do, and on the trial's 8th day, his defense began with a sometimes chaotic turn in the witness box for a fellow ex-Scientologist, Rinder, who said the two men are friends. That's all you need to know, you guys. Rinder told jurors that he escaped Scientology in 2007 after more than 40 years in its ranks, and chunks of his testimony were shot down as hearsay because, as the judge Sabrina Krause noted, the witness has testified he was no longer affiliated with the church after 2007. But over numerous objections from a lawyer for Breest, Rinder was allowed to implicitly connect Haggis' exit from Scientology to the multiple sexual assault allegations against Haggis being aired in his trial. Four women from Canada who worked in film and television have testified alongside Breest that they too were assaulted by Haggis in separate incidents between 1996 and 2015. And also, I want to add real quick, Leah Remini had spoken on his behalf. I really think she needs to get some more education. Haggis himself said in a 2011 New Yorker article that inspired the documentary, "These people have long memories. My bet is that within 2 years you're going to read something about me in a scandal that looks like it has nothing to do with the church." That excerpt was read aloud in court Friday despite an objection from Breest's lawyers that saw both legal teams exit the courtroom with Judge Krause for a bench conference. Rinder said his evidence that Breest's lawsuit might be connected to Scientology is a documentary mentioning the case that was in the works for an Australian television outlet. He really has his nose everywhere, doesn't he? And Scientology got that show spiked, Rinder told a lawyer for Haggis, Seth Zuckerman. A Breest lawyer, Ian Mazel, pressed Rinder to admit he has no real evidence of his former organization deploying an operation against Haggis. There you go. But the exchange was repeatedly cut short by objections from Zuckerman. You have absolutely no idea what Mr. Haggis did to those 5 women, Mazel said, his voice rising, noting that the two are friends. Again, noting that the two are friends. Mazel said, have you ever asked him what happened that night, meaning the night Briest was in Haggis' apartment? Rinder said he hadn't. Such a gaslighter. Rinder also denied and then admitted that he had written an email to the Haggis camp saying, I hope his lawyers and PIs pull the strings on any of the women's reasons for speaking out. Listen to that. I hope his lawyers and PIs pull the strings on any of the women's reasons for speaking out. Listen to that. Sounds like a threat. On Friendly Redirect, Rinder said that if there were an operation against a suppressive like Haggis, Scientology is so good at covering its tracks. Yeah, you mean, because Rinder used to do that. Used to. That, allegedly. By using layers of cult outs that nobody would have any knowledge of that. Essentially arguing that a lack of visible evidence for such an operation was proof it could be happening. A day that opened with both parties agreeing Briest is not a Scientologist ended with hints of a hidden Scientology conspiracy. I think we're done for this week, Judge Krause told jurors with a nervous laugh. Why is it nervous? Why is her little laugh nervous? Please tell. Before the Zuckerman ended his cross-examination of Briest's expert psychologist, Lisa Rocchio, by asking if Rocchio's fees might be paid by a third party, prompting a lawyer for Briest, Zoe Salzman, to shake her head. Briest's lawyers have criticized the Haggis team for suggesting Scientology has any role in the litigation. Well, I do believe he was a Scientologist when all this happened. Outside the courtroom, Salzman and Mazel both said neither they nor their firm has any connection to Scientology and has never received a dime from the organization. The whole Scientology defense is embarrassing, Mazel said. It's absurd. He said the defense's only reason for introducing it is to distract from his client's case. The trial resumes Monday, and Haggis himself could testify as early as Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm going to follow up later. I got some things to do, but I know Paul Haggis was found guilty and had to pay the victims. I'm not sure which victims, but he had to pay like $7.8 million, maybe even more. As the worm squirms. Everyone have a good day or a good night wherever you are. Peace.